Welcome back to the second hour of Citizen Extra. We covet all your feedback. Talk to us on our platforms 22422 and on social media at Citizen TV Kenya. We'll be able to read them hopefully before the end of this broadcast. I'm now joined by my analysts, and we've switched them up a little bit. Dr. Kamau still stays with us. He's a political analyst, but I'm joined now by Mr. John Kagushia, who's a governance expert, and in addition, Francis Pasimei Gitau, who is a public policy and development consultant. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, we are talking about the IEBC, the ongoing nominations, gubernatorial nominations, and of course integrity issues as well, bearing in mind a press release from the IEBC stated that they've received 106 cases from the EACC with different challenges in regards to each of those cases, and they are proceeding to get more inquiries in regards to the same on whether they should bar any aspirants, stroke candidates or not. And of course, Dr. Kamau was explaining to us what is the role of EACC, what is the role of IEBC in this process as well. That was just before we came back on air. Dr. Kamau, for the benefit of our audience, just briefly summarize what you were sharing with us.
Well, Wahiga, I think we earlier mentioned about the Chapter 6 working group. Work, of course, was to look at the different candidates and issues and who meets the legal threshold. But if you look at it, I think nobody is really willing to confront the integrity issue, and that is why IEBC, upon receiving information from EACC about 106 cases with a clear summary in terms of where the cases are, in terms of who is currently under investigation, the cases that are currently in court, and of course where the matter has been concluded. But still, instead of acting on that, they have gone back to EACC and asked for more information. The other thing you have to look at is that EACC submitted that list when some candidates had already been cleared, which would have course been useful to IEBC in terms of making the decision. But I think we have to clarify that the role of EACC and the other bodies is to advise on the qualifications or the threshold, whether the different candidates meet the threshold to be allowed to vie. But IEBC is the one that has the mandate to bar or to allow somebody to vie. Now, the next question, of course, arises is when they ask for information, do they want EACC to specifically recommend that such and such a person should be barred, or is it their decision? I think what we are seeing here in Kenya is that nobody is really willing to address or take on the integrity question head on. I think our reprieve would be for people to go to court if we know that, Wahiga, you do not meet the threshold in terms of, let's say, your papers are questionable. I can go to court like it happened, I think, in the case of Kajiado last time, Kajiado County, and the governor was barred after somebody went to court and he was barred because of the academic qualifications. And I think we need to see more people doing that. There are some people who have been cleared. We know there are specific cases that are confronting them at the moment, but IEBC, instead of taking the bull by its horns and barring some of these candidates, of course, somebody will definitely go to court and say that there is no sufficient evidence or have not exhausted means of appeal so as to be barred. So it's a question people are not willing to address. But I also have to say this, Wahiga, we cannot solve all these issues in a legal way. We cannot get a legal solution to every problem. This is also a political and a moral question. When somebody has been accused of grave issues like it happened in 2013, I think I should also say that if I am accused of such grievous crimes or issues, I should also morally consult my conscience and step aside to allow investigation, so that as I go to people, I'm asking to represent them, and yet I'm accused of crimes against the same people.
I like your use of the word consulting one's conscience. I think we need to do more of that in Kenya.
It's a political and moral question as well as a legal question. So now that we can see that there is no legal solution to some of these issues, because people will still go to court, and like somebody indicated earlier, nobody is likely to be barred because of the current cases, because nobody has exhausted all the means of appeal. But then there has to be another way that people who have cases pending or hanging over them should not be allowed to request again to represent or lead the same people that they are accused of having stolen from.
Yes. I'll be bringing John and Francis shortly, but those images that you're seeing on your screen are from Nakuru County. As I've been mentioning throughout the course of this broadcast, we are live from different locations. Now in Nakuru County, we're expecting Lee Kinyanjui, the Jubilee gubernatorial aspirant, to present his documents. Jamlek Maina is there. I don't know if we can get an update from him a bit later on, but we had expected the former NTSA chair Lee at 2 p.m, but it appears that he has decided to go a bit earlier on, and he'll be going up against the incumbent governor Kinuthia Mbogwa on an independent ticket, and John Mutudo, former Nakada chairman, who was expected at 10 in the morning, which is right now actually, and Paul Njoroge nominated the KANU senator who presented his documents yesterday. So of course the documents need to be scrutinized. It's a bit of a waiting process now at IEBC. What we'll do is we'll go back to those images and what is happening there when we know whether he has been given his nomination certificate or not. John, let's talk a bit about what Dr. Kamau has referred to, but I want to now broaden the topic and ask, is this press release by the IEBC a sign that we are headed in the right direction? Would you compare where we are right now with where we were in 2013? Are we moving forward? Can we say that we're being more democratic and taking matters of integrity more seriously, or has nothing changed?
IEBC is not bold enough, and they have kind of kept dodging this issue of integrity. And not just IEBC, we are seeing all the other agencies that are supposed to deal with this issue dodging, and they've been going around it all this time. And if you look at the Constitution, Chapter 6, when it was brought on board in the new Constitution, Kenyans expected to have an issue, or they expected to disrupt the kind of a chain that was there, where we have leaders who have no integrity at all in this country. And they expected that we are going to introduce a value system in our politics and in our governance and leadership in Kenya, so that then we have leaders who are of integrity and who will not misuse public funds for their own benefit. And when now you look at what is happening at the moment...
Sorry John, let me just hold you there for now. We are crossing over to Kasarani, where Peter Kenneth, buying on an independent ticket, has just made his way into the grounds. He doesn't have a certificate in his hand, so I assume this is him. Now there we go. That's the shot I was looking for. He's presenting himself to the IEBC, where they will ask him for his documentation. Of course, together with his running mate, Dr. Dan Shikanda, who many will know from football, where he has played and represented Kenya in the past. And so Peter Kenneth there, one of the few remaining aspirants for Nairobi who was expected to present his documents today, because we know Governor Kidero, Senator Sonko, Miguna all presented their documents yesterday with 3 others, and we expected two or so aspirants to present their documents today. Peter Kenneth, one of them, and a few minutes after 10 o'clock he has made his way there. Well, the pictures that you're seeing on your screen are those of former Gatanga Member of Parliament Peter Kenneth presenting his documents to the IEBC together with former Harambee Stars winger Dr. Dan Shakanda, who is his running mate. Now, just a bit of history about Peter Kenneth. In 2008, he was the Assistant Minister, Ministry of State for Planning, National Development and Vision 2030. He's also been an Assistant Minister in the Ministry of Finance and an Assistant Minister in the Ministry of Cooperative Development and Marketing. Of course, many know him as a former Member of Parliament for Gatanga. And in 2013, he was the first presidential aspirant to release his manifesto for the Kenyan general election. Of course, he lost to the incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta. This time round, he decided to go for the gubernatorial position. First, some had thought he would vie in Murang'a, but he later switched to Nairobi. And he participated in the Jubilee nominations where he lost to Senator Mike Sonko. But he decided to plow on an independent ticket. And he is making true his promise by presenting himself to the IEBC with all his documentation, whatever they've requested him for, intention to vie, certificate of good conduct, educational documentation, and anything else that the IEBC may have required. He has come armed with it together with his running mate. And of course, the running mate must also present the same documents. And we saw situations yesterday where aspirants were being turned away because their running mates either did not have certified educational documents or had issues with some of the other documentation as well. So any aspirant must ensure that the running mate has also adhered to the requirements of the IEBC. We are bringing you those images from Kasarani. We don't expect that process to take very long, and thereafter we hope that we'll be able to get a statement should all go well for Peter Kenneth. Now, we expect quite a battle in Nairobi County. We know that Peter Kenneth will be going up against the incumbent, Dr. Evans Kidero, against the current Senator, Mike Mbuvi Sonko. Of course, we also have several other candidates, but some of the more prominent ones include Miguna, all of whom presented their documents yesterday and were cleared. What we know is that the only aspirant who faced the challenge yesterday was Miguna, because he presented his signatures. Of course, as an independent candidate, you need to present a certain number of signatures showing that you have the support of the people. His were in a JPEG format. He went and got that sorted, and he was cleared once he brought them back in Excel format. Well, from Nairobi County, we cross over to Nakuru County, and that's a county that we've been looking at since morning. And right now, former NTSA Chair Lee Kinyanjui is presenting his documents. As I mentioned earlier, the timetable had indicated that he would present his documents at 2 p.m., but he seems to have decided to head there earlier and present them, obviously dressed in party colors, representing the Jubilee Party. And just to quickly summarize, he'll be going up against the incumbent Kinudhi Mbogwa on an independent ticket, John Mutudo, who's also an independent ticket, who is also the former NACADA chairperson, and KANU-nominated Senator Paul Njoroge, who carried out this process yesterday. Those are some of the names that you can expect to see on your ballot paper if you're voting in Nakuru County come the 8th of August. So those two events happening simultaneously. We know a lot is happening in other counties, and we'll be crossing over to them when we are told. Let's listen in to what's happening at Kasarani first, then we'll also listen in to what's happening in Nakuru a bit later on. Well, if you just joined us, we are in the second hour of Citizen Extra. The big topic today is the IEBC, the nomination process, especially for the gubernatorial race, and integrity issues. Now, just to bring you up to speed with the current discussion that we are having in studio, the IEBC in a press release stated that they have received 106 cases from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on the subject of enforcement of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which talks about matters integrity and leadership. And just before we crossed over to the different counties to see what was happening, both in Nairobi and Nakuru, John Kagusha was talking about how various agencies, the IEBC, EACC, seem to be dodging the issues of integrity, and in terms of moving forward after just releasing information, they don't seem to be taking the necessary steps forward. John, just to narrow in on a statement you made, you used the word dodging. Why do you think these agencies are doing that, specifically the IEBC?
It's because we do not want to take the bold move. And the Constitution has given us the arsenal, it gave us the arrows now to attack the issue of lack of integrity in our governance system. It gave us every reason to ensure that we are able to implement all the principles of good governance as enumerated in our Constitution. And that is provided for us. What we do not have now so far is that general goodwill from all these agencies that are supposed to ensure that that is followed. And you see, IEBC in the first place, they said this is not our role. Then they said it's supposed to be done by EACC. Of course, you know, we have many other agencies like DCI, we have DPP. We have all these agencies that are supposed to ensure that we have good leaders in our governance system. But again, it is the issue of the value system in our society, in our governance structures in this country, and also very well embedded in our own culture as a country. But then this is a dragon that you must be able to attack, and we have to slay it, and we have to be able to disrupt what has been happening so far. But then who is this going to help us to attack this and to slay it and to be able to stop what has happened in the past? Now, the Constitution, which was promulgated in 2010, gave us this. The Kenyans spoke in one voice and said, yes, we want our leaders to be people of good integrity, people who are morally upright, people who will uphold ethics in their work, people who will be accountable, people who are transparent, people who are fair, people who want to do what is right in the country. But again, you see, we are pushing it to one person, then pushing it back. Now, to help us deal with this, I remember the president actually came up with a multi-agency approach. I do not know what has happened, because then they were supposed to sit together. Then a file lands on a table where we have EACC, we have DPP, we have DCI, we have we have the IEBC, and even the political parties were also supposed to participate in this. And then we would not even be having an issue whereby one file is being passed from one agency to the other, because then they are working together as a multi-agency group of institutions that are supposed to ensure that we have good integrity in our leadership in this country.
Thank you. Thank you. I might have to cut you off there just in reference to what's happening on our screen. We also have Francis Parsimegi Tao in studio. I'll also be talking with him shortly. John, let me tell our viewers what's happening on the screen. We're live from 3 different locations. We've been following up with what's happening at Kasarani, Nairobi County, as Peter Kenneth goes through that process. We've also been following what's happening in Nakuru, as former NTSA chair Lee Kinyanjui also presents his documentation to the IEBC. And of course in Kirinyaga County as well. That is what we've just added to our broadcast at the moment. Our link there, where former Devolution and Planning Cabinet Secretary Anne Waigoro now had time with the IEBC as she presents her documentation. And she'll be going up against the incumbent, Joseph Ndadi, on an independent ticket. Martha Karua, who's expected later on with her party, Na Kenya. And also Kennedy Macharia on the Chap Chap party was also expected, or will be expected to arrive there at about 11. So we'll be switching from different locations whenever we get any updates in regard to that. From Kirinyaga County, we have our own Macharia Gashuru. A bit later on, we expect to have a chat with him so that he can give us any of the finer details that we may have missed, you know, because we are not physically there. He'll also be able to update us in regard to that. But we are live there from Kirinyaga, Kasarani, which is in Nairobi County, and Nakuru as well. And of course, from various other locations, we'll be taking you to Eldoret, Kisumu, Laikipia, and wherever else we get updates. Immediately we get them. Thank you so much, Francis Gitau, our public policy and development consultant. Just to move this discussion forward, now that we've had John's views in regard to how IEBC is handling this process and EACC, and he doesn't have a very good view, a very promising view about how they're handling this particular process. My question to you is, how could IEBC and EACC have handled these cases in a better manner? Did we have to get to this? 2 months to the elections, we are seeing these challenges, we know that we are fighting time. Could this have been handled better?
Thank you, Wahiga. One thing I want to say is I don't want to push the blame solely to IEBC because these are people who are said to have been picked by Kenyans in terms of nomination, and some of them, they have been picked in their hundreds of thousands in terms of votes. So in terms of common agenda in terms of Kenya, it's not just the government systems and agencies that are supposed to be acting. Even Kenyans are actually supposed to be acting, and they ought to demonstrate this, because we ought to ask ourselves, where is the spirit of national purpose? Because I think that is the bottom line. Where is the spirit of national purpose? Where do we want to go? As Lee Ikoka once asked, where have all the leaders gone? Because leaders are not the elected ones only, or the ones in the corporate sector. Even right in the villages, we ought to demonstrate leadership in terms of the people that we propose and we vote for in terms of becoming leaders. So for me, one of the handicaps that IEBC and the rest have is the fact that they do not have a structured engagement. They just came together the other day as an amorphous platform so that they can cooperate, but without a legal instrument as to how we're supposed to shoot first, we're supposed to shoot second. And that's why you're hearing the back and forth. It was not my role, it was not my role. So I think these are systems we should have put in place early enough, and cannot be solely be blamed on this institution. At least we can be grateful to them that they have decided to come together to see how they can be able to complement each other for the purposes of ensuring that going forward this country get the right leadership. I would want to say that that if the people that we elect are bad and the priorities are wrong, somebody said that nothing else will work ever in life. So and I think this is where Kenyans ought to realize that an electioneering process is such a critical exercise for this country, and we all ought to play our role, whether invited or uninvited.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gita. I'll be coming back to you, and also Dr. Kamau, to talk about what role can party leaders and political parties play in ensuring that the aspirants adhere to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. But for now, Nakuru County is where we are headed to, where former NTSA Chair Lee Kinyanjui is addressing the public. I believe he has already received his nomination certificate. We'll clarify that shortly. As the Jubilee gubernatorial aspirant, who once he has the ticket in his the certificate in his hands, he will then now become the candidate or the nominee. Let's listen in to his statement.
For accompanying us on this very critical stage. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the members of Parliament, the nominees for our party who have accompanied us. We have Mheshimiwa Kimani Ngojiri from Bahati. We have Mheshimiwa Tunui from Kuresoi South, is here with us. We also have Mheshimiwa Gashofe from Subukia. We have Mheshimiwa Kibet Komen also from Rongai, and I'm sure the others are coming. I'm also accompanied by Dr. Eric Korir, who is my running mate, and he also comes from Kuresoi South. So mine is first to thank all of you, including the party. I can see Cheriot here, Mtumishi, and all the other members representing the Jubilee Party here today. We have presented our papers this morning at 8 o'clock. and having gone through all the required procedures, we have been cleared to run for the August 8th elections as the governor for Nakuru on a Jubilee ticket. We want to thank everybody who has been part of this journey, who has made it possible, and where we could not reach, we have many of us who have been able to reach where we could not reach. As we brought here, one of the things that we have to sign is a code of conduct that binds us to certain behavior that respects other opponents who are also in this race, and also binds our supporters to behave in a particular manner so that we conduct a peaceful election and that nobody is threatened in the process. We promise to abide by all the rules that are there and to ensure that we have a fair competition, and even when there is differences, political differences, we shall be able to handle it in the most mature way possible. So mine is to urge also all the other contestants to ensure that in the process of campaigns, we do not forget that we have a country to take care of, have a country, and that every citizen must feel that the campaign period is a time to bring Kenyans together and not a time to bring about differences. Lastly also, we are expecting the President to be here in Nakuru today from around 2 o'clock. We also want to take this opportunity to urge all members of the public, all supporters of Jubilee, and all friends of this government to be available. We'll start from Subukia, and we hope to end up at Kenyatta Avenue maybe by around 6 or 5 o'clock. So ours is also to take this opportunity, together with all my colleagues, to welcome the President in Nakuru, and to urge all residents of Nakuru to come up in big numbers to welcome the President. And also, as you may all be aware, the day before yesterday was the day when we commissioned the Madaraka Express, and it is actually ending in Naivasha, which is part of this county. So we also have a lot to thank the government, because that is going to change this county forever, and I'm sure we'll be there to ensure that that is received. So I want to end it there, and also to welcome my colleagues maybe to say a word or two. Is that okay on my part?
Given a chance on August, you talk about your priority for the residents of Kivu.
Hello?
What would be your top on your priority when you are given a chance on August?
Asante. Anauliza tutakapochaguliwa priority yetu ama mambo ambayo tungetaka kufanya ya kwanza ni gani? Tumekuwa tukizunguka county nzima. Mimi najua cha kwanza ni kwamba kuja kuwa na maendeleo ambayo inaweza onekana. Juzi tumesema Mheshimiwa Rais baada ya miaka 5 ameweza kuzindua mradi wake ambao utakumbukwa wa miaka ingine hata 100 ambayo inakuja. Hapa kwetu Nakuru hakuna miradi hata moja tunayezindua baada ya miaka 5 na zaidi ya bilioni 44 billion shillings. Kwa hivyo tutakuwa tukihakikisha kwamba miradi iwe ni ya maji, ya shule, ya barabara, ya masoko na pia usaidizi kwa wakulima imeweza kupatiwa kikao mbele. Kwa hivyo tutafanya kazi pamoja na viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa na pia viongozi wa kidini na community leaders kuhakikisha kwamba tumeweza kupatia maendeleo kikao mbele. Ya pili pia ni kujaribu kujumulisha Wakenya wote pamoja. Nakuru ni county ambayo iko na makabila yote, na tungetaka kila mtu ambaye anaishi Nakuru licha ya tofauti zingine ajisikie yuko nyumbani. Kwa hivyo pia wakati huu wa campaign na pia hata baadaye tutahakikisha kwamba mambo ya usalama na uwiano, reconciliation, imeweza kuweko. Ya mwisho tu ni mambo pia,
I don't know whether I should call it a nomination speech, but former NTSA chair, former Nakuru Town Member of Parliament Lee Kinyanjui giving a few words after receiving the nomination certificate from the IEBC. He's there together with his running mate Eric Korir, and some of the interesting issues that he's talked about is that they were told to sign a code of conduct, which among other things requests or mandates or compels them to respect their opponents during this electioneering period, and even up until August 8th and thereafter. And I think that's something we'll be able to discuss in the panel here now. In the Jubilee nominations, he garnered 216,385 votes against the incumbent governor, Kinodhi Mbogwa, who got a little over 150,000, to be precise, 150,137 votes. So that is why he's in Jubilee Colors today, because he got that ticket. They'll be up against, as I mentioned earlier, KANU-nominated Senator Paul Njoroge, former Nakada chairperson John Mutudo, and we expect Mutudo to also take his papers there later on. We hope to get that interview even as this show continues. Well, we continue our discussions here, but also just giving you an idea of what's happening across the country. We are also live in Kirinyaga County. I can still see Anwai Goro going through that process, former CS Devolution and Planning. She is filling in some documents. I'm sure she has to sign others, and thereafter she will hopefully address members of the press and share with them her thoughts on the whole process and the way forward. And Peter Kenneth also going through the same process at Kasarani in Nairobi County. He had begun this journey as a Jubilee aspirant, but after the nominations he lost to Mike Sonko and is now vying as an independent, and his running mate is Dr. Dan Shikanda. For those of you on the sports arena, you may remember him as a former Harambee Stars winger. Those are some of the counties that we are following closely. We'll get you those updates as and when we get them. But coming back to studio, where I was about to engage Dr. Kamau, talking about the IEBC, the nomination process, and of course integrity issues as well. Dr. Kamau, what role do you think party leaders can play in ensuring that their aspirants adhere to Chapter 6 of the Constitution?
Well, Wahiga, I think we have seen nobody is willing to take responsibility for the integrity question. And of course, the political parties will definitely not do that. You remember there was a case of Maina Jenga who wanted to vie on a Jubilee ticket, but because of certain questions on integrity, he was banned and he went and found a home in KANU. What we have seen is that the easiest way, the clearest path to political office in this country, it looks like it's having many court cases, corruption, scandals, and I think it started with the days of Mwenje, who at some point had 133 pending court cases. When he was very popular, he used to be one of the guys elected with the highest number of votes. So you have seen that all I need to do is, even you have many cases pending against me, corruption, scandals and allegations, I just need to play victim. Because as my colleague here suggested, that IEBC should not back candidates if these candidates were elected by the people in the nomination process, and therefore it means I can play victim. If they are questionable, my academic credentials are questionable, I play victim and say I'm being persecuted. If I am guilty of hate speech or I've been caught on camera uttering words that would amount to incitement or hate speech, again I say that I am being persecuted, or our community is being persecuted. I am guilty of stealing public funds, and again I say that it is persecution. And then nobody is actually willing to take the bull by its horns and say that we have to address the integrity question. Earlier you asked whether you have made progress. I'm not sure whether you have made progress, because everybody seems to be finding a way of going around. That is why so far nobody has been convicted or jailed because of corruption or integrity issues. And I think that is a great change. The political parties definitely, it will be the first point of course of clearance before they accept people to vie on their ticket. They should be able to vet. But you have seen they are happy to actually embrace and welcome people who are accused of great misdemeanor, great crimes. They are happy fronting them because they are kingpins in their particular region. So I don't think we will find any hope in the political parties.
Dr. Kamau, I know that shortly I'll need to let you go, but I also now want to pick up on something you said. So political party, so institutions like IEBC look not willing to take up the process. That's what one of our analysts in studio has alluded to. Political parties and party leaders also not willing. Who should Kenyans be looking up to then lead this process if those who are expected to do so are not doing so?
Wanjiko, Kenyans must actually make a decision, vet, analyze the leaders who are presented and offer themselves for the elections, scrutinize them. If they are accused of some of these crimes, stealing public funds, questionable academic credentials and all these other things, incitement, Wanjiko should actually be able to make a decision. I know the law, the constitution was supposed to help narrow the choice for Wanjiko, but if these processes have failed, at the end of the day we saw during the nominations we were able to bring down giants. Wanjiko has that power, exercising the vote on August 8th, and make that decision for herself.
Wow, okay, so Wanjiko, the role is up to her. When we talk about 106 cases, and I want to bring in John on this, do they sound accurate? Do you think there should have been more? Do you think there should have been less? And I want to talk about another report that was released by a section of civil society that mentioned 20 aspirants, 2 former cabinet secretaries, 7 governors are among 20 aspirants who civil society organizations want barred for running for elective posts in the August 8th election. So on one hand, IEBC releasing a list of 106. On the other hand, civil society asking for 20 aspirants to be barred. Do those numbers sound accurate? Do you think we should be talking about more aspirants or fewer?
Definitely, we would be talking about more aspirants than 106. The 20, of course, the list that was provided by the civil society looked a bit small, and also focusing only...
A bit small.
Yeah, focusing only on those people who do have big names in the country. Do not focus on other aspirants who may not have been on the limelight. When you look at the 106, those people are not is not a proper representation. But again, it's also somewhere to begin from. And if we were to take action against the 106, it would help us now to lay a good ground. Although then it would also be bringing other questions as to what are we doing about the other aspirants who may have integrity issues. Now, one of the things I would want to point out is that if we need to take action, it's good we take action early enough. When you want to change the course of a river, you do it near the source. You do not wait until the river has collected all the tributaries and now it is full of water, and just before it gets into the Indian Ocean, you now want to change the course of that river. It becomes more difficult, and it will give you a lot of headache to actually change the course. So it is important that we start taking action early, because these institutions are independent and they are also permanent. They are not temporary. We are not mounting up these institutions a few months to the election. So why are we taking action only a few months to the election? It's good to look at all the aspirants and look at them early enough and take action early enough. We saw Jubilee, for example, taking action against the gubernatorial aspirant in Nyeri County on basis of academic papers. But again, you see, that is tokenism, because even that gubernatorial aspirant then may have a question as to how was he picked, the only person, and yet we know there are many other questionable academic papers, not only in Jubilee but also even in other political parties. Of course, Jubilee again also barred Maina Jenga from vying on its ticket, probably because the Jubilee party wanted to be in line with the constitution that says that public leaders ought to carry themselves with such integrity that did not bring the office that they hold into disrepute. Now, why don't we see parties taking action in that line, even on more candidates, other than just one or two candidates? So it is important that we take action on more of our aspirants, and if that is done, probably we are going to set a foundation for future generations, so that when we are now talking of 2022, 2027, or all the other elections that we are going to have, then issues of integrity will be core and will also be key in terms of how we handle our elections and who comes into leadership and who does not come into leadership in Kenya.
Thank you so much, John. Well, Dr. Amao had to leave us, but we are now joined by David Osiani. I've not asked him how he wants to be introduced. I think I'll call him a political analyst for now. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We are talking about the IEBC nominations and integrity issues. My question to you being the issue of questionable academic qualifications. This has affected incumbents and aspirants as well, those who are looking to get into offices. And yet, we're still not quite sure what is the way forward on this contentious issue. I know that during the IEBC presidential nominations, one aspirant, Erastus Nyamera, I believe, had stated that in previous years he has been given a chance to vie, that was under a different constitution, without a degree that he could present, and yet this time around he was blocked from that process because he had not finished that course, and he was wondering what has made me change, whereas in past years you allowed me to vie and I qualified, but now you're saying that I don't know. What is your take on the way forward when it comes to contentious academic qualifications?
I think it becomes very hard to finally deal with that at this point. Reason being, there have been issues around contentious certificates and academic qualifications, but we have had people accused of serving in offices without requisite papers, and institutions have even been questioned about some of these people, and they have written down to say these people are not from our school, they do not have legitimate papers, but for some reason the sitting government, for example, has continued to reward its cronies and give them the jobs, all right? You know, the NGO Coordination Board, I have my brother Fazul there, whose papers are questionable, and Egerton said, the gentleman didn't graduate here, but he's still the CEO. Now, to come and then tell candidates right now that you are not going to be able to run because this is contentious. One, I don't even think IEBC has the mandate to prove whether or not those papers are legitimate. It therefore means it's the job of the judiciary or of NEC, which one would argue, if someone is in the opposition, they would say, the regime is trying to box me out of this, all right? As we have seen with Governor Joho, it seems, no one can validate, but it seems the regime is bent on boxing him out. But if they are in the regime, then they would say the opposition is politicking with this matter.
That's right.
So it becomes very hard to get down to it and say this is the way to go. How I wish that our institutions would be above board, trustworthy, and able to work independent of both state and opposition forces. Then that way we would be able to address this with a finality.
I actually want to carry on the discussion with you before I bring in Francis, and I want to ask you, the IEBC of the 106 cases that they have received, some of them are in regards to academic qualifications. They've written to the Commission for University Education in regards to those with questionable academic qualifications. Are you happy with that process? Do you think that it will lead to something?
Essentially, IEBC has forwarded a complaint from another arm of the government. All right? It therefore means that if there was not enough vested interest in some seats, then some of these are going to go unnoticed. So it means someone is running in a constituency or running against a governor, but because of the interest and they have the resources, they're able to complain, and I dare say manipulate effectively some other arms of the government, DCI, DPP, EACC, which then forwards these names and says the following 106 do not have legitimate papers. So then question is, Wahiga, if IEBC is to pursue that route, I'd rather they then forwarded all candidates' papers to the CUE and give them the job of deciding.
Of every aspirant.
All of them. Thousands
and thousands of them.
Exactly. Instead of going to settle out for 106, then later you will realize that that was so little. There are actually 200 others who are in office who didn't need to be in office because they did not have legitimate papers. However, there was no one interested enough in their seats such as to pursue them in that manner.
Right. Francis, I want to get your take on that. Should the IEBC forward all the documentation in terms of educational qualifications to the Commission for University Education to verify for everyone?
So, Wahiga, first of all, I would want to say that two wrongs don't make a right, and the fact that there are people who are occupying offices without the requisite academic credentials does not justify that any politician should be allowed to get away with it, because we know politicians are bestowed with the responsibility of making policies. If they do not have the intellectual capacity to be able to do that, then we are risking as a country. And for me, first of all, as I did mention, I am an independent candidate in Kajiado North, and I would want to say that actually we have submitted the anti-corruption did request all the aspirants to submit their academic documents to them in soft copy or physical, and that has happened. And my hope is that along the line, because in law, when you do mispresentation, that does not deter the body that is responsible of finding out, cutting you short even at the last moment. So you might do your campaigns, but my hope and expectation is that all these things are going to be established before the nomination, the election date, so that even if you have campaigned for 1 month, you'll be told, my friend, you can't continue because you do not have the requisite credentials. So I pray that will happen, because it is the only solution. We are crying that we don't have this, we don't have these jobs, and all this is a fruit of us having poor and bad leadership, people without credentials in the past. Well, we should want to make sure.
Francis, I might need to cut you off on that, but I believe the IEBC is hearing your prayer well, and some very interesting recommendations that you have there. We'll come back to you shortly. Let's take a look at what's happening now in different parts of the country. We're now in Migori County, where Ochilo Ayako, as we have mentioned to you earlier, running on an independent ticket, and what we had been told is that him together with other aspirants running on independent tickets had planned to mobilize a large number of people as a show of might to show ODM leader Raila Odinga that they are a group that should not be ignored in that part of the country. And so those are the images that you're seeing on your screen right now. They are expected to present their documents at the Migori Teachers Training College. I just want to confirm if he's actually gone through that process already. Does that look like he has his nomination certificate? I'll be able to confirm that shortly. But what we know is that the road shows are supposed to start from 8 a.m. and they would precede their meeting with the IEBC at about 11, where they will present their documents. Of course, Migori coming to a standstill on the second day of the IEBC gubernatorial nominations process. So Ochula Yako there, he will be going up against Okoth Obado, the ODM party. We have Stephen Leto there. We have Stephen Leto there, and a bit later on I know he'll be giving us an update. And in Kirinyaga, we are following up closely even as Anne Waiguru continues to have her meeting with IEBC as she presents her documents, obviously signs a document or two, possibly code of conduct, among others. And in Nakuru, I'm told also John Mutudo, former Nakada chairman, has also arrived, and he will also have to go through that same process. We're not sure how long it will take. There we go. We can see him on our screens. John Mutudo, he had vied under he had gone through the Jubilee nominations process, lost, and decided that he still wants to stay within the race, and thus he is now an independent candidate. We keep switching to different parts of the country as and when we get updates on when candidates have arrived at the various IEBC centers. I can see Peter Kenneth there. He's been there for at least 20 minutes now or so at the lower part of your screen. He is at Kasarani having a discussion with the IEBC officials there. He is vying on an independent ticket, lost to Nairobi Senator Mike Mbuvi Sonko. We hope to get reactions from each of these. Right now I'm calling them aspirants. A bit later I'll have to change and call them candidates or nominees should they get those certificates. We hope to get reactions from them, and of course our reporters on the ground to give us any updates or explanations that we may not be able to see on our screens. But that brings us to the end of the second hour of Citizen Extra. My name is Wahiga Mora. We still have John Kagusha in studio, Francis Parsime Gitao, both experts in their respective fields, and political analyst David Osiani. We'll continue the discussions after the break when we get into the third hour of Citizen Extra. You are watching Citizen TV. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.